Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this WPD webinar. My name is Ben Godfrey. I'm the Network Strategy Manager for Western Power Distribution. In this afternoon's webinar, we're going to be talking a little bit about flexibility and flexible power, and also give you a brief introduction on the Energy Data Hub and how we're making our data available and open and transparent to other participants in the energy system, so that we can get further learning and further value from that data. So we're just going to give it a few minutes for people to go and get logged on, settled into the webinar, see whether there's any, if they're to resolve any audio or visual issues they've got with the webinar software itself, and then we can kick straight into the webinar. Through the webinar itself, there you have the ability to, I think it's called raise your hand, or indeed ask a question in the drop-down box in the software. There'll be a short period at the end for Q&A, which we can start answering any of those questions that you've got at the end of the session. But we're quite happy to take questions throughout the session as well. So by all means, if you've got any questions to do with either the content or just in general about WPD, then fire them our way, and we'll be able to do our best to go and get you back an answer. At the end of the webinar itself, the slides and the content, and also this video presentation will be available to download or to stream on the internet, and we'll also release the FAQs of all the questions asked within the session, with full answers if we aren't able to get through all the questions in today's session. So we'll just give a little while for people to get in and get settled in, and then we'll kick off with the presentation. Okay, we've got quite a good number on the webinar today, so we'll kick off. So as I mentioned earlier on, then this webinar here is about the Energy Data Hub, flexible power and flexibility. I'll be presenting the overview as Ben Godfrey, the Network Strategy Manager. With me, I also have Sharon McGuffey and Helen Sorden, who both work within my team and look after the Energy Data Hub and flexible power, respectively. So if you've got any questions today, either answer them in the Q&A session or throughout today's webinar, or if you think of something later on, then do get in touch with us via the web address on the slide here. We make these recordings available from about the 17th of January, so in about a week's time or so. So in terms of data sharing, we think that this is a really important role for us as Western Power to try and provide the data sets that we hold and make them accessible to everyone who's involved with facilitating the use of electricity on the network. Whether that's consumers or those people involved with the planning in terms of local government, and local government and LEPs have a particular role in setting the direction about how energy is consumed and generated within local areas, so either by consenting particular projects for going ahead, or curating how the constituents in the area will be using energy in the future through their local energy strategies. And we think our data that we collect in terms of what we do as WPD will be a useful input into helping local government authorities and LEPs do that to the best of their abilities. This has really been driven by a lot of the work done by the Energy Data Task Force, which was set up by Ofgem back in 2018, last decade in fact. And this particular work, led by the Energy Systems Catapult, was investigating how we can release the power of data within the energy system. The core recommendations from that task force were really about promoting the openness of data, and by doing that and enabling the energy sector to move to a more digitized world, then we can maximize the value of that energy system and enhance the use of that data. So all of that data should be presumed open. So the general aims of the task force are to help the industry unlock data and understand that, to drive innovation into those new products and services and business models, and then produce a more efficient and cost-effective system that works around the needs of the consumer. Coupled along to this, we've got a network innovation call for this year in 2020, and that is really asking people who work within the energy system to get back to us on how they think they might be able to maximise the value for these existing data systems. So what we're looking for, and this is an innovation call for funding, which will come from our Network Innovation Allowance pot. We're looking for projects that are going to be using our data sets and perhaps combining them with other data sets that are open and available. And how can we take that information, that data, process it in such a way that provides value out to the wider energy system. So hopefully us providing some funding in that particular area to work specifically on the data sets that we have on our Energy Data Hub. Hopefully that will be able to catalyse some extra work in that area that we can help feed into, and that will in turn provide additional benefit for customers within WPD's area. And so we're quite excited about the particular proposal. We're really seeking for ideas from third parties, as you know, we have internal ideas ourselves, but in order to deliver the largest benefit out to the wider network, we need your ideas from the third parties for disruptive ideas that perhaps we haven't thought about, to take that forward. So there is some online submission form on our website. If you go to the innovation section, you'll be able to find that there. Or when we make these slides public, you'll be able to click at the link and go there directly. So the call's open now, and it'll be closing on the 14th of February. So please either look at those links or do get in touch with us if you want further information about what that might relate to. So now I'm going to hand over to Sharon to discuss a bit more about the Energy Data Hub.
Good afternoon. WPD already shares data with the industry, the regulator and the consumer. With the creation of the Energy Data Hub, WPD has encompassed shared data in one location. The aims of the Energy Data Hub are to unlock value of data within the energy system, drive innovation in new products, services and businesses, and produce more efficient, cost-effective systems that work for the consumers and realise the benefits of clean energy. The Energy Data Hub acts as a repository for all of the data that we share with stakeholders. Within the hub, there are 4 key areas where data information can be found: systems and network data, cost and charging, low-carbon technologies, and strategic information. Let's take systems and network data. This is where WPD shares information and data related to our network assets and system operation. The Map Hub, with so many different mapping systems shared, it made sense to create a mapping hub which encompasses all of our shared mapping in one place. Such things as live power cut maps, the network capacity map, network flexibility map, even the electric vehicle capacity map and constraint maps. Signposting information will direct flexibility providers to different distribution needs. Statement of works. This is a request to National Grid Electric regarding the impact of a connection of embedded generation connection on their system. Data Portal 2, online service where stakeholders have access to WPD asset data and EMU. Alternative connections, where the network has reached its capacity, customers could be offered an alternative connection whilst reinforcement is being installed. Generation Capacity Register is a list of generators connected to WPD network, and Generation Outage Report is a summary of lost generation due to constraints. Secondly, cost and charging data. This is a sharing of data relating to connection and use of system charges, where you will find connection charging statements. These statements cover terms and conditions relating to new connections, alterations, including generation. Use of system charges. Here you will find data and information for electric suppliers and other major users with regards to the use of our system, metering, etc. Facilitating the share of information for potential generation connections consortium. Here you will find information regarding the potential sharing of connection charges in an area of the consortium rather than as an individual, sharing the cost of reinforcement or connection charges. Interactive cost tools. These are tools which are available to help you budget for the cost of obtaining electricity connections for your development. Thirdly, low-carbon technologies data. The amount of low-carbon technology connecting to a network is growing. This section on the Energy Data Hub contains more information on how we're enabling this, sharing our data on electric vehicle strategy, ensuring that drivers of electric vehicles are able to charge their vehicles in a convenient way. Electric Vehicle Connection Guide. Here you will find information regarding the quickest, most efficient and economical way of connecting charging points to electric vehicles. Carbon Tracer. This is a project which is delivered via an app that uses real live data to calculate what actually contributes to the locally generated energy that powers electric items in your home. Strategic investment data. Here stakeholders can find out what we are doing to build a smarter system and how we're investing to meet the future needs of our customers. Sharing data on distribution, future energy scenarios, where you'll find reports that outline the growth of the distribution system. Distribution system operators, or DSO. This is a mapping of the transition from a distribution network operator to a distribution system operator. Long-term development. Here you'll find data that has been compiled to assist current and future users of WPD network to identify and assess opportunities available to you for making new or additional use of our distribution system. Flexible power. This is where you will find data and information which we share with stakeholders, creating partnerships that generate income for local businesses and can enable us to accommodate increasing demand for electricity without having to build a large network.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Sharon. So on now is exactly that last point that Sharon mentioned about flexible power and flexibility. And to talk us through that is Helen Sorden.
Thanks, Ben. Grab the controls, one moment. Okay, so my name's Helen Sorden. I'm the Flexible Power Commercial Officer for Western Power. And I'm just going to give you a bit of an overview of what flexible power is and what we're doing in the flexibility area at the moment. So flexible power is it's the brand that we've created as Western Power Distribution to be sort of the customer-facing side of our procurement activities for demand response services. So we want to contract with customers who can be flexible with their energy usage, or they have generation assets that they can be flexible with. So turn their generation assets up at times of requirement, or reduce their demand at times of requirement. So generation behaviour changes that can help us manage our network better. We do pay for this service. It's around £300 to £600 per megawatt hour that can be provided to us. The requirements that we have are locationally specific, so there's specific areas that we've identified on our network where we've got constraints, and these are the areas that we signpost on our flexibility map, and we regularly go out for procurement to get demand response services contracted into these zones. All of these zones are, we see them as interim solutions to reinforcement, that they'll all have at least 1 year of requirement. Many of them will have up to 4 or 5 years, possibly more years of requirement. So why do DNOs need flexibility services? So the graph on the left-hand side there is kind of showing a demand profile on a piece of equipment on our network, a transformer, say, and the green line on there is the firm capacity of that piece of equipment. And as you can see, the blue line is showing a demand profile that we might see today in today's scenario, and at peak times of the day between sort of 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. It's exceeding the capacity of that piece of equipment on the network. And the red line is really showing where we think with demand growth and the introduction of more and more low carbon technologies onto the network, such as electric vehicles, potentially we could see those peaks increase even more. So we've got a lot of unutilized utilized times of the day on that graph as well, where we're below capacity. So what we want to do is shift demand or lock demand at those peak times using flexibility as the means to do that. So what is demand response? So the types of demand response services we're looking for. Some examples here. So it could be a supermarket has air conditioning, or a warehouse or a factory has some sort of heavy load that it could turn off at certain times of the day, such as heating, cooling or refrigeration. Or it could be a factory with backup diesel generators that could switch them on for us at peak times of the day. But really we're completely agnostic to what type of technology it is provides any service to us. So it could be battery storage, CHP or natural gas. Where we have known constraints in our network, we really want to build partnerships that utilise this demand and generation flexibility. And as I said before, we will repay that with a financial payment. So what are the key benefits of participating in flexible power? So as I said before, we're completely agnostic on the types of energy resources that are connected. So we'll accept participation and service from any type of generation or demand reduction asset. We don't insist on any minimum capacity asset size for participation. So any size asset, either individually or aggregators, can participate. It is stackable. We don't impose any exclusivity. So if you're already participating in other market streams, it's completely stackable with those other markets. You can contract with us directly. You can do it through a third party, such as an aggregator. And we also have a unique electronic availability and dispatch platform that we've built specifically for flexible power, which automates all of the performance. It collates meter readings from your assets and automatically calculates what your performance and available earnings are, and produces a end of month invoice. So there's loads of information about this on our Flexible Power website. So this is just an overview, and there is lots more documentation that details all of these processes on flexiblepower.co.uk. So if you're interested, I'd really encourage you to go and have a look on there. So where is Flexible Power available at the moment? We have just launched our new procurement requirements for 334 megawatts across 42 locations on our network. This is the third year that we've gone out for flexibility procurement, and this is by far the largest requirement that we've gone out for. Each year we're growing, and the requirements that we're procuring are getting larger. I won't read all of those out, but there is across each of our 4 licence areas in the East Midlands, West Midlands, South West and Wales, 42 locations in total. Here is a map which sort of geographically shows where they are. We do also have an interactive map available on our website. If you go on flexiblepower.co.uk and go onto the Our Schemes page, you can click on any of those areas and it will give you a zoomed in view of that location and give you all the requirement information for that location. There's a postcode checker there where you can put your site's postcode in. It would tell you if you fall within the right geographic location to be eligible. Huge amount of information available on that interactive map, and we also put up there our signposting information, so information around future zones that we consider we might be considering procuring in the future. So just a little bit here about the revenues that are available through Flexible Power. So we split payments across availability, or sometimes referred to as arming, so an arming availability payment, which is kind of the standby payment for making your assets available on standby to us, and a utilisation payment. So that's when we actually call upon and require your asset to deliver service to us. There are 3 products that we're looking to procure for flexibility. So every single one of those 42 zones will be looking for a restore service. So the restore service is our sort of emergency red button if we have an outage and we've got customers off supply on the network and your asset is in a location that could support us return supply, then we will pay £600 per megawatt hour for that restore service, and we couple that with a secure or dynamic service across all of our zones. So each of those 42 zones will then also be allocated as either a secure zone or a dynamic zone. And that really depends on the type of constraint that we're seeing in that location. So secure zones are locations where we're regularly seeing the times of the day where we can predict that we're going to need service. We're going to have those exceedances of capacity on a regular basis, and we're able to predict those on a week ahead stage. With the dynamic product, there need to be certain network conditions that would need to be met before we would have any certainty around requiring that service. So we tend to offer much longer availability windows on the dynamic product, and we'll make the in-day decision on when we need to utilise you. But overall, the secure and the dynamic is roughly £300 per megawatt hour within those areas. On average, we think participants should be able to make between £1,500 to £6,000 per megawatt that they're able to offer available to us over the course of 1 year participating in Flexible Power. It's also worth noting that while we do have fixed prices at the moment, where we see that some areas have a large number of competition in them and we start to see a lot of participation in certain locations, then we do have a the stage 2 of our pricing strategy, which is a kind of auction. We'll be asking for best offers on a per megawatt price, and we will establish a clearing price from those. We'll do that post-tender once we know the number of bids that we've received in. If you have assets that you're considering participating in Flexible Power with, then to be eligible, they need to be within the boundary that's been specified for that CMZ, that constraint management zone. You do also need to build the comms interface, the application program interface, which is it's a software solution which enables us to send you stop-start signals for utilisation of your assets, and in return you send us back metering data so that we can verify the service that we've received from you. You need to be able to provide minute-by-minute metering data over that API, and your asset needs to be able to respond within 15 minutes of receiving a signal from us and be able to hold that response for a minimum of 1 hour. You do need to be in contract with us to provide these services. So you need to accept our standard CMZ terms and conditions, and each site would need to be built or have a accepted connection agreement within the final milestone established before the CMZ's operating window. And it shouldn't put you in breach of any other agreements. So any other agreements with other markets, or perhaps if you're operating on exclusive terms with National Grid, and your connection agreement, for example. Again, we don't impose any exclusivity. We also don't impose any obligation to provide availability or indeed any service to us, and there are no penalties for non-delivery of availability or service. There are some revenue clawbacks for underperformance. So if you underperform when you begin delivering service to us, there is a clawback mechanism which is there to encourage maximum performance from our participants. And just on the contractual side, we have shared and capped liabilities. So if anyone is interested in participating or finding out more, the first step really is to have a look at our signposting information on our website. So the link is there, and these slides will be published. So here you can look at all those locations that are available. Have a look at the type of service that we need there, the times of day, the days of the week that we would require that service, and some forecasts around the volumes of availability and utilisation that we might need. You can download that information either through the interactive map, or we have a document you can download that details all that information in full as well. And as I mentioned before, there's a postcode checker on there as well, so you can put your site postcode in and confirm if you are if you're within a zone. If you are within a zone and you want to take it to the next stage, the next step is to register your interest with us. And to do that, you would need to join our dynamic purchasing register. So this is where we hold information on all potential participants that have pre-qualified with us and are eligible to provide service and enter into a tender with us. So the link is there. You just respond to that PIN notice. In response to that, we send you some PQQ, pre-qualification questionnaire information. Once that's completed and returned to us, you're on our DPS, and anybody on that DPS is then eligible to bid in and respond to an invitation to tender. We release invitations to tender approximately every 6 months, so usually January, February, and July, August are our tender windows. So there's plenty of opportunity throughout the year to respond to an invitation to tender once you are set up on our DPS system. So once you have responded to an invitation to tender, as long as you've completed all the correct information in the invitation to tender, you will be awarded a contract. And once you're in contract with us, we give you access to our dedicated participant portal. So this is part of the API communication system that I spoke about earlier, and it's kind of once you get your access, it's like a calendar view. You go on, you can see every day of the week that we want availability from you, and you can go in there and put the times of the day, the days of the week that you can make your asset available to us. And then it's here where we would accept or decline that availability from you. And then through this system, we also send the signals of when we want you to start and stop providing service to us. And in return, you send your event metering data to us. The system automatically produces a performance statement and an earnings statement of how you've performed and what revenue is available to you as in response to that event, and they all collate into a monthly invoice that the system produces for you at the end of the month. So just lastly, we are in an active procurement cycle at the moment. We released those details of those 42 zones I mentioned earlier on the 6th of January. So anyone who is interested has until the 13th of March to respond to the invitation to tender. As I said, you'd need to be registered onto our DPS in order to do that. So that can be done at any time, but ideally that would be done ahead of the ITT window opening, so that there's plenty of time for you to complete the ITT documentation once that's sent over to you. We'll publish results from this procurement round on the 3rd of April. All of our procurement results from previous rounds are available on our Flexible Power website on the Tools and Documents page, so you can see what contracts we've awarded in previous rounds through 2018 and 2019. And that's it from me. I'll pass you back over to Ben Godfrey.
Excellent, thanks, Helen. So that was a real good whistle-stop tour of flexibility and flexible power. As you can see, there's a real big opportunity there for operators and owners of generation or demand-side response to get involved and help us support the local network and deliver energy out to customers efficiently and economically by participating in these services. And not only that, it's a really good source of revenue opportunities and could definitely help current and future generation and demand-side response assets make a greater revenue and quicker payback periods. So we're definitely inviting people to go and get in touch with us now, as Helen said, and talking to coming through the procurement process and see if you can help us out with those particular assets in those particular areas. Onto the Energy Data Hub, as we say, we've put up quite a significant amount of data in there at the moment. All that is available and online to be able to be viewed and downloaded. So please familiarise yourself with those particular data sets. And if you do think that there are any particular ways that you could combine those data sets or use them for your own purposes, and you'd like to investigate that under an innovation project, then as we said before, we've got that call out at the moment for those particular innovation NIA projects. So by the 14th of February, please get in touch with our innovation team and they'll be able to take that forward. So that's it from the content for the webinar. There's a bit of time now to answer any questions. If you've got any of those on any of the topics we presented today, or anything related to WPD, then we'll do our best to discuss. Got a few questions already, so I'll dive right into those. But if you've got any more, please fire them through. So one of the questions was, what type of technologies are you seeking in particular areas for flexible power? Well, I think Helen said that we're fairly agnostic as to what the type of technology is. So whether that is how the generation or demand side response, how that flexibility is achieved, we don't really mind. It's all the same value to us. What is key is that it's dispatchable and can react to the signals that we send through to it. So any generation or demand side response can bid in, but it does need to be dispatchable and controllable. And we don't really mind what voltage level it's connected, as long as it's within the voltage levels applicable for that particular areas. So some of the areas are 132 kV connection points, and so anything at 132 kV or below, we're accepting connections for. Some of them are far more lower down into the area, and so either LV or 11 kV generation or demand side response, they can play a part in solving those particular constraints. We haven't got a particular size of limit for those particular assets either. So whether it is whether we're looking at anything smaller and aggregated, so lots of domestic units aggregated together, or just a large single set, it doesn't really matter. But what we are looking for is ideally volumes of 50 kilowatts and above, but we have in previous times dispatched units as low as 600 watts, so much smaller units, just to prove the concept. So we're open to all suggestions of all generation or demand side response flexibility. So we've got a question on here from Tim about significant constraints in parts of WPD which could benefit from flexible power, and whether we're going to be looking to increase those zones. So the answer to that is yes. So what we've endeavoured to do this time around is assess all of the load-related reinforcement that we've got on the network out to the end of 2023. So any schemes that we've got identified for reinforcement, they have been opened up to the market, and we've got the forecasting information, and we're seeking flexibility in those zones. As I say, 334 megawatts worth of flexibility. Effectively, it will be looking at impacting around over 120 million pounds worth of reinforcement, so real significant numbers there. But of course, we're limited in the amount of capacity and resources that we can do in terms of this analysis. But what we have committed to is that as more constraints are identified on the network, we'll be analysing these to see whether flexibility can play a part in solving those, and we're also going to take those forward as well. What we're hoping to do in the future, at the moment we've very much focused on real power, and for import constraints, so for those people who are those areas which are demand dominated and are consuming more power than what we've got network capacity for. The other type of constraint we've got on our network is export related, so where there's too much generation in an area and we can't accommodate any more generation. Typically those areas, because of the charging methodology, require the charges for new reinforcement to be pushed upon new generation in that area. What we're looking at is avenues about how we can use flexibility, so demand side, demand turn up services and generation turn down services to be able to fulfill those needs. And we're hoping to be able to come for something in the market, a commercial mechanism towards the end of March to satisfy that. And if we've got significant take up of that, then we'll be looking to launch zones for generation turn down or demand turn up, so to help combat some of those export constraints. So this is very much a business as usual approach, and we are looking to use it across the whole of our network, as you can see from the coverage we've got in all 4 licence areas. So we've got a question on the innovation call. Is there any specific projects or further guidance you can give about the types of projects you're seeking? On that basis, the answer is not really. We're really looking for fresh ideas coming from third parties. So it could be about combining our data sets with other publicly sourced information sets, or it could be just about different ways of augmenting or processing that information to come up with better outcomes. But what we're really looking for is those sort of fresh ideas that aren't coming from internal from WPD, and really what we'd be seeking is for the third parties, for us to help the third parties develop those ideas, and then for them to commercialise them off the back of it, and take that forward out into the public domain. So we're not looking to take away any of the IP or anything like that. We're really looking to catalyse and facilitate further learning from those data sets that we're producing already. So I think that sort of brings us towards the close. We've not got any further questions on, but if anyone does have any further questions or they want to point to us, then either direct them through flexiblepower.co.uk or WPD Network Strategy at westernpower.co.uk, and we can pick them up offline. So I'd like to thank you all for your attendance today, and for Helen and Sharon here for giving you some insight into the work that we're doing, and I hope to see you at some of our next webinars. Thank you very much.